How does an autoimmune disease impact longevity? If you are in the longevity world and interested in those kinds of things, then chances are you've heard that Bryon Johnson, one of the big longevity gurus, has just been diagnosed with a autoimmune disease where his immune system is basically eating up his gut and making him inflamed. Now, I was surprised and not surprised to find out about it, because he's basically been getting at longevity and expanding his health lifespan in a way at not really addressing the root causes of health, but just adding lots and lots and lots of things, lots of synthetic things as well, to try and live longer. Now, the way I preach and practice my functional medicine and longevity approach, and the ones that work with me, my clients, and know my approach, is that I look at the root cause, not just for health now, but for long-term health. And the same thing applies to longevity, actually. Now, there's research that looks at the hallmarks of aging. They say that the same 12 hallmarks are underlying all sorts of bad health outcomes down the line that we're trying to prevent with the whole longevity medicine. So if we're, for example, where most people are worried about cardiovascular disease like strokes and heart attacks, or they're worried about cancers and Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, those kinds of big problems that are really impacting quality of life as we get older, and that are reducing health span and longevity as such. We might be living longer, but if we don't have the quality of life, then what's the point? Now, what a lot of the longevity medicine does then is just give certain drugs and peptides and supplements to try and tweak and add a few extra years to life. But what they're often missing is to look at the root cause of what actually creates health and what actually messes with these 12 hallmarks of aging. And they found that some of these underlying hallmarks are factors like inflammation and chronic infections, gut microbiome. How is our body actually metabolizing certain things? How are our hormones communicating? And if we are supporting those, then longevity is an end result, because we're supporting health now, which helps us stay healthy long term. Because what's the whole point if we're trying to do all these longevity things and then we develop a proper disease, which, like in this case, an autoimmune disease, basically creating inflammation throughout the system. And inflammation is one of the biggest underlying factors, one of the big hallmarks of aging that contributes to all sorts of bad health outcomes as we get older, and also in the short run. It basically makes you feel pretty miserable. And I can speak from experience. As you maybe know, I had an autoimmune disease. That's how I got into all of this, into this line of work. And what people often don't fully understand, and I've kind of been talking about this for the last years, is that now that longevity medicine is so trendy, which is wonderful, they're often just looking at certain shortcuts. What are certain drugs and peptides and medicines and supplements and certain tools that can help with certain factors, but often they're not connecting the bigger picture. And what really is important for long-term health, which is long-term longevity, is to connect the bigger picture, connect the dots, and create health from the core. And that's where functional medicine, the root cause analysis, root cause biology, and health optimization actually shines. It looks at what's degrading and eroding health from the core, and if we're supporting that and making all of that run super smooth, then we have a wonderful, long, healthy life as a result. Part of that is also our stress levels, for example. If we're constantly stressed and wanting to be perfect in our health and longevity efforts, then that can in itself be a stressor on the system. And stress puts us into fight or flight mode, which takes us away from rest, digest, and heal mode, which is actually a hugely aging factor, contributing to eroding our health, making our body more prone to autoimmune disease, chronic infections, cancers, all these sorts of things. So rather than thinking, okay, how can I bypass one thing? How can I add one extra certain magical pill or tool? Look at the whole picture, at the root cause, the whole functional medicine approach to longevity. If you're interested in finding out more, I'd love to talk to you, and you can talk to my team how I look at the root causes of health. Your genetics, your DNA, your lab work, your root cause analysis, gut microbiome, infections, hormones, how they all interconnect to really come up with a bespoke strategy that works for you to optimize your health, not just longevity medicine, but actually make you optimally healthy now, so that all your mechanisms, all your biology can thrive so that you don't all of a sudden have an autoimmune disease.